My vision is a little bit compromised at the moment. Okay. Okay. So we struggled last night till this is going to be 8 lines from the beginning of this paragraph, beginning with the word ba'emes. And the line begins with 2 hays, huray-hu. But huray-hem. Specifically, this is now focused on the kelim and on the sphirot. We're saying that the sphirot are a metziut sphirot mamash. We discussed, to the extent possible, the principle of metziut. Metziut essentially means a presence, and the definition of presence is something that has a beginning, has a place where it is not, and then it appears to be. It is there, it surfaces as a metziut. That's a metziut. Something that is omnipresent and that encompasses everything is not a metziut. So we're saying that there's a metziut sphirot mamash. So then we go into differentiation. That's why we're in the middle of that parenthesis. That this metziut is actually a lakus mamash. And if it's a lakus mamash, how can it be a metziut? This is like a complete opposite. A lakus does not have a beginning. Motzei. And this is a metziut mamash. And yet, we're saying that it is a lakus, and yet it is mikol mokim, the last words on the previous line, mikol mokim, yet still, huray-hu b'bchinas metziut. It has the quality, it qualifies as a metziut. In other words, despite the fact that it's a lakus, there's an element that makes it known because of its presence, and of its defining factors. How do we understand both of these totally different, opposite aspects? The who, and it is masher lakus nase b'bchinas metziut. It says where lakus nase becomes b'bchinas metziut in the state of metziut, on the level of the aspect of metziut. And as it says in this Sefer Kabbalah Chavez HaKedesh, these are the words of Chavez HaKedesh. Ve'hagvul hanintzim mimenu tchila. The gvul, the limited quality, that comes from him, tchila, the very first level of gvul, hein hasphires, these are the spheres. V'hainu hakelim, When we say the spheros, we mean the kelim of the spheros. And okay, this is the conclusion of this whole discussion. Close parentheses. And the point that we have brought out in these few lines is that the kelim are literally gvul. Even though they're elokus, nonetheless, they're gvul mamash. And what is the underlying aim in bringing out this final statement that the kelim are gvul? It is then to examine and understand what does it mean that the oil is mislabish in the kelim. Last night and previous times we focused in trying to identify what is meant by oil. And what we said is that oil, when we say the word oil, light, we immediately think of sunlight or light from a candle. An energy form that emanates from a source. Now, sunlight, as in being interpreted by this experience of light, and we said this is like an energy form. This light, this energy, emanates from the sun, not because it's light, but because it's hot. It's a totally different thing. It's a physical presence. Whereas what we're referring to is the light aspect itself. Not the energy, not the heat, but the light aspect itself. The expression in Chassidus regarding sun is that the sun is etzem behiri. Etzem behiri means an etzem, in essence. The word etzem, again, it is almost impossible to translate because the seichel cannot conceptualize what etzem is. But the idea of etzem is that it is something in and of itself. It is not something that is the result of some kind of an activity, some kind of a process. The reality itself, etzem. Etzem behiri means that the light in the sun is not due to any combustion, not due to heat, to any kind of activity. It is light that the Rebbe created, just as the Rebbe created light in the first day of creation. And there was no heat, and there was no source for this light. The Rebbe created light. This is the light that comes through from the sun. And the way Chassidus expresses it is that when the sun rises, the entire environment becomes lit up, not because it sends an energy to hit all the objects, but because this is etzem behiri, it transforms darkness completely into light. Its own presence, the presence of the sun itself, makes things lit up. Where is our means of relating to this concept? And then afterwards we have to go back to the sun. Leading to this concept is the human presence. The human presence in the world and human presence in his own home. It's not due to any kind of a activity, of influence. It is just his presence. Because the reality of the human being changes the entire world and changes his own home. And it fills his own home. How did it fill his own home? Because they hear his voice? Nothing, there's no tangible element that emanates from the human being that you say he is everywhere in his home. And yet he is everywhere in his home. This is the principle of oil, which is an emanation, or better still, presentation of the earth. Of the atom itself, not its quality of heat or its quality of wisdom. The atom itself. Now, this atom ultimately is, this oil ultimately is mislabesh in kelim. Kelim, as we said, just finished saying, by definition, kelim have a gvul, have a definitive presence. In Naam Sholim, last night we discussed it at great length. What are the kelim that contain the human element in the world? So we said everything that a human being uses, just because he's a human being, not because of any other reason, for convenience, for cleanliness, just because he's a human being, that represents his human quality, the principle of the human being. This is the keli that contains, in which a human being is mislavish, such as drinking from a cup of water rather than putting his face into the plate, a spoon, a fork, a table, a chair. Which are all uniquely human. Again, they're human not because of its convenience, but because there's a stature, there is a dignity involved. This is exclusively human. These kelim contain, and they're filled with the oil of the human being. If you enter a home and you see a dining room with table and chairs, you know that there is a human being in this home. Because that's what these kelim represent. The oil, or the human oil, the presence of the human being. So what we're struggling with is this. This human oil, the human being per se, this is an unlimited quality. This is etzem. How can this etzem reality be represented and contained in a keli that is finite? And now we are going to pursue this. This is the question that is now going to surface. Right after the parentheses, the line begins with the word hanimtzo. Eight lines from the beginning. Yeah. At the end of the parentheses, in the middle of the line. V'im noimar, if we would say.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
It was said, it was stressed the whole time that in the oil there is a beginner's gazelle. And now we're saying that the metziut is also liquid. What's the connection?
I don't understand
to
the
say
question.
that we're stressed the whole time that in the oil itself there's a beginner's of gazelle. And we're also stressing the point that there's a metziut, and the metziut is also liquid.
There's also what?
It's connected? Liquid.
Oh, you mentioned that. Let me finish this. I can't even answer the question directly. Let's just continue here. Im Neumer, if we should say, Shoha'oir hu bibchines bli gvul mamash, if we should say that the oir is in the aspect of bli gvul mamash, mamash means absolutely. There's not an element of gvul in the oir. And why would we say that? By virtue of this moshel that now described. In this union that the human being has an atzmistic element of a human being. This is bli gvul. This represents the human being himself. So therefore, this is what the Rebbe is saying. If we should say that the oir is bli gvul mamash, literally bli gvul, without containing an inherent element that can relate and express something of a form, of a meaning. How then would be possible that this oil should be mislabish, should be imbued in kelim, in the kelim, shehein b'bchinas oil pnimi. B'bchinas oil pnimi. What's mean b'bchinas oil pnimi? In an oil pnimi manner, not superficially, but b'bchinas oil pnimi in a pnimi mamash, in a pnimi manner, that the keli actually relates to the oil. Not the oil is just encompassing the keli. Let me explain the pnimi oil pnimi. This we should be able to understand quite clearly. You have a cup. We put water into the cup and we say the water is contained in the cup. And now this is water in a cup. It's a different kind of water. It's water that can be disseminated exclusively through the function of the cup, drip by drip. This is what this water is now. You put the cup into a basin of water, and the cup is then filled with water. Also the cup is filled with water. But does the water then relate to the cup? It spreads all over the basin and including the cup. The cup becomes bottle, becomes null. The cup doesn't contain the water at all. So the water in that case is also in the cup, but not bibchinas oil pnimi, which means that water in the cup, when it is in the basin, is not transformed by the cup, that it becomes drinking water. It's exactly the same water that is in the basin. When you put it into the cup separately, then the water is changed. It is now drinking water, presentable to the human being. But when it is in the basin, Nothing happened to the world. It's not the B'chinas Pnimi, even though it is contained in it. Now.
No,
What?
just what? Maybe they're gonna bang drums.
I'm sorry?
I'm just wondering if they're gonna bang drums.
It's a B'chinas Pnimi. B'chinas Pnimi means that the water is transformed by the keli. How can you take something that is bli gvul mamos, that has no aspect of gvul, and then put it into a keli whereby it becomes transformed to become like the keli? Where does he get that quality from? If it gets it exclusively from the keli, this is my point. Which means not that it itself relates to it, but by virtue of the keli, you use it that way. That's not a pnimi.
It's not even possible.
Huh?
It's not even possible. It's not even possible.
No, it's possible. Let me explain what that means. It's possible. We discussed last night. You can train a dog to act in a decent manner. The story with the Rambam, that it trained a cat to serve at a dinner. But the cat didn't relate and didn't appreciate what it was doing.
Yeah, but you can't train a human being to act like a dog.
You can.
Only if he has in him a behavior.
No, you can. There are, and I mentioned last night the whole Germanic state system. To train, this is how come they became so subhuman. How did it become not so subhuman? They lost completely respect for life.
Even if they would be human through and through, that could be possible?
No.
Impossible.
No. They intentionally drained their mind from the human quality because they perceived that to be acting in a certain fashion is more significant, is more intelligent than to be a human being. So they drained the human being of human quality. They started acting this Mendele. Mendele was a doctor who sent people to the side. Mengele. He was standing there with white gloves, immaculately dressed, and he was watching and studying people. There's a human quality there, totally drained. There's nothing left. But he's wearing white gloves.
No, I don't mean. I mean that we said that if the oil would get the kli, the union of the kli, only mitzat the kli. So this would not be a or pnimi.
That's right.
But I'm saying that it's or through and through. If it doesn't have an element of gvul, it can't get this union of the kli even b'chitzonius?
Well, where did they get the idea to wear white gloves? The hands told them to wear white gloves?
No, for sure not.
The seichel told them to wear gloves. But they took the seichel and they drained it to the point where it became just metziut of keli. It wasn't Slavish in the keli. It was no oil anymore.
But that couldn't be unless they had in them an element that wasn't human. They could not have, if they would be human through and through be'etzem, it would be mufrach.
Well, true, we're not going to examine this. This is the amazing power the human being mind has control. Everything the human being goes through his mind, his emotion, everything. And if he decides that this is the way he wants to be, this is how it is going to be. is going to act in a certain way, completely drained of its spirit.
Rabbi, you can't compare water to a human being. Water is just an inanimate substance.
The human being, Shmuel, enough. The human being who can Rahman al-Islam, destroy other human beings in such cold blood is an inanimate entity. Totally inanimate.
Was what?
Is inanimate. It's like water. There's no chayas in it. No sensitivity whatsoever. It's below a behemoth.
Any human being, most human beings,
Shmuel, I don't want to argue with you.
can be taken down to that. If you put them in an experiment and you set up an authority figure and you tell them give electroshocks to this person, even if you
means that the keli actually senses the oil, and the oil senses the keli. If the oil were totally bligvu, was only etzem, how can the oil be mislabish in the keli and sense the union of the keli? Therefore, you have to conclude, in the oil, inherent in the oil, there is an element of gvul. This is what this is about. Okay, this is it for this morning. Okay.